7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, how's everybody? Y'all ready for this? Well, I can start some kind of dance song. Today we're going to end up this series today. Have y'all had a good time in this? Man, has it been helpful or what? I'm learning so much. That's why I can't be friends with any of you guys. I'm looking for somebody though, so, if you're in, we may be able to do something. I don't know. Now, today I want to finish up, man. And Scott, last week, man, what was awesome. Golly, it was so good. I took in so much, and so I wanted to re-preach so much of the things he talked about, but I'm not going to do that. He just opened up my eyes to so many things, and it was really great. But today I got the last two messages of this series. But Easter jacked me, man. So I'm gonna whittle both of them down and put them in today, if that's all right with everybody. All right, I need to get started, but I need to do just a hair of teaching. If you haven't been here before, if you've been here and you look around and you see people yawning and checking out, it's because they've been here before. And you need to get on them. But if you hadn't been here, man, I need to catch you up on some things. One of the things you need to be caught up on is that Jesus was a Jew. I know it sounds like funny, but you need to know that. It's important stuff, right? And here's why. Because the Jewish world does not work like the world we have here in the West, right? And their culture is different. The way they educated their children was different. And the way they established their society was different. God ordained and set up this system. And the way it worked was every kid, when they were about 5 or 6 years old, every kid would be sent to the synagogue, the local synagogue, or the temple. If you lived in Jerusalem, they'd be sent to school, and there they would be taught, and they would be taught out of the holy text. They would be taught out of scriptures. So from 5 years old, they're being just fed that these are the words of God. They're opening the scrolls, and they're at one time God spoke. And this meant something. And so at 5 years old till about 10 years old, this is a time called Beit Sefer in the Jewish education system. And so as they're going through this time, they're learning Torah. Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament. It's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Okay, the first 5 books, they saw that these were when God spoke, and these are God's laws, and this is the will of God. And Jewish kids had been taught for thousands of years that this is life. This is life. God spoke His will and His life. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. So from 5 to 10 years old, get this, they memorized every word. Every word. Not just memorized it, but they could debate with it. The rabbi would give them a text or make a reference to a text. And they would return to the rabbi the text maybe before it and after it. And maybe even hit the rabbi up with another text challenging the rabbi, saying, not only do I know what you're talking about, but how about this text here? And so they were able to communicate using these texts. Now what happened at about this age, about that age, some kids just get kind of squirrely, right? Well, some kids just didn't have it. Some kids didn't have it, so they went on and they learned the family business. But the other kids continued on in their education system. And from 10 to 15 to 16, 17, these kids learned the rest of the scriptures. Memorized. The whole entire Jewish Bible, all of the scrolls, they knew it word for word. They knew everything about it. And so as they memorized it, they took it in, and the rabbis would then begin to sit, and it was called the art of questioning. And so the rabbi would sit and the students would sit under his feet, and the rabbi would question the students, and the students would not answer the questions, but then in turn around and ask the rabbi a question, say, not only do I know what the answer to what you're asking, but I'm challenging you back with this question. They knew the material. It's very undifferent than today, because what do we do today? Here's the information, and we expect you to be able to spit it back out. So you only need to know it till you memorize it for the test, right? Anybody done that? Like, cram. I got to remember this for the next 15 minutes. Bam, take the test. Score, done. Forgotten. But they didn't memorize it that way. It became part of them. Now, what was after this, though, this is like graduation. This is it, but for the best of the best of the best. And not only the best of the best and the best and the brightest, but, man, this is also part of the culture of the day of Jesus, finances. Right? Because this is getting expensive, sending my kid to these schools and these rabbis and being taught this. And so they have to be the best and the brightest and the most elite. We would say that these are Ivy League kids. And they would go on to become part of the Beit Midrash, the upper education, and then they would then learn more and grow in knowledge and all this. And when they finished this education thing, and it was only the best and the brightest, you got to remember, like that 1%. How many of you guys went to Ivy League school? I won. See, that's about, it's what it is, right? And this is pretty much the way it was. I mean, the best and the brightest and the sharpest and those who could afford it, they could get in. And after all of the schooling and all the education, very, 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 very few would then have the rabbi, they could apply. After this, they could apply and say, I would like to be your disciple. I would like to be your disciple. So the rabbi would watch them and question them. And then the very best of the 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 best, then the rabbi would say to them, come and follow me. Come and follow me. Now you got to remember, this isn't to learn learn with your head. When they would come and follow a rabbi, it was to do what the rabbi did. It's so important because it wasn't like, oh, I want to go and learn more. It's like, I want to do what you do. Supposedly by this point, they should already know what the rabbi knows, but they want to do what the rabbi does. And it's unbelievable because these disciples, they would follow the rabbis. And today it's funny, I hear stories all the time about a rabbi walking around in Jerusalem and his Talmudim, his disciples are with him. And it's an honor, they'd say it's an honor that you be covered in the dust of your rabbi. Like, may you be the one that's got the horse crap piled up on you, all the stuff he's stomping and kicking through. You're the closest. You're the first in line right there behind the rabbi. You're learning. You're never missing a thing. And they say, like, even now it's not unusual to see a rabbi go into a restroom and all of his disciples pile in because they might miss something the rabbi says or does. And they want to take it all in. They want to do what the rabbi does. And it's important that we understand that because there's a story in the Bible, and it's in Mark chapter 1. Mark chapter 1, verse 16. And this is a story, and it's called, if your Bible's got like those sections broke out, mine says Jesus calls his first disciples. It says this, passing along the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and Andrew, the brother of Simon, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. Which tells you what? They're losers. They are not the best. They are not the brightest. They are not the wealthiest. They are fishermen. At some point in their education, their rabbi looked at them and said, "You need to go learn the trade of your father." Anybody feel with that? Yeah. Anybody go learn the trade of their father? Like when you're in English in high school and your teacher comes up, "What's your dad do for a living?" You're like, "Ah, let's see where you're going." And Jesus said to them, get this, "Follow me. Come and follow me. Come and follow me." I like this part. It says, "And immediately they left their nets and followed him. And going a little further, he saw James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, who were in the boat mending the nets. And immediately he called them, and they left their father Zebedee and in the boat with the hired servants and followed him." Now, I've had this picture of my whole life of like this old man in this boat, right? And this guy comes walking up and says, "Hey guys, come follow me." And they jump out of the boat, and the father's like, "What the?" I mean, if I say that because I've been out working with my dad before, and my friends pull up and say, "Hey man, let's go," and it's like, this is going to be bad. Everybody ever done it? Like, man, this is not going to work out good. Because you want to go, but right? So I see them jump out of the boat, and I see you rascal kids, and something else that strikes me is they are in the boat with their father. And man, how many of you guys have always thought like the disciples as these like 70, 80-year-old men? The disciples were getting around. Dude, John was like 12. He couldn't even go fish by himself. And Jesus went and he said, "Hey, come and follow me. Come and follow me." And they did. And they saw things, and they experienced things, and they walked with the rabbi, and they saw healing, and they saw the dead raised, and they saw the brokenhearted mended. They saw the demons cast out. One of them even walked on water. They followed, and they saw, and they imitated, and they did everything the rabbi did. At one time, Jesus even said, "You will do even greater things than this." Because the rabbi's job is never to keep you in the fray. The rabbi's job is to make his ceiling your floor. The rabbi's job was to elevate you to a place where not only did the kingdom come, but the kingdom was advanced. Come and follow me, and they did. And it went, and it went, and it went, and they thought, man, this is building up, and this is great, and they were rolling, they were getting strength, and they were learning, and they were growing, and they were casting out demons, and they were healing the sick, and they were raising the dead. And they were doing everything the rabbi does. And then one night the rabbi calls them together and says, "It's over for me. I will be with you only a little while longer, and then you'll see me no more, and then you'll see me, and then you'll see me for a short time, then you'll see me no more." Man. And you got to imagine that the air just deflated from the room, right? Like, what? But then in Matthew 28, we pick up this rabbi, Jesus, he goes, and we know the story. He goes to the cross and he lays down, he gives up his life. And he says he does this. He says, I lay down my life for my friends and I call you my friends. And then we know that Jesus was then resurrected on Easter Sunday. Everybody knows that. Jesus was resurrected. And he made himself known to them again, and he came and he visited with them and he talked with them and he restored them from their failures and he encouraged them and he lifted them up and he prepared them for what was soon to come. And then in Matthew 28, this is his last words he says to them. In Matthew chapter 28, verse 18, and Jesus came and he said to them, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Now, I want you to understand this is just a side thing, but when you see the words heaven and earth in the Bible, when you see the word heaven, I'm going to say every time, but if I say every time, somebody's going to come up to me and go, what about this time? So I won't say every time, but when you see heaven in the Bible, it's talking about in the spiritual realm, and when you see earth in the Bible, it's talking about the physical realm, okay? All authority in the spiritual realm and all authority on the physical realm has been given to me. And then he says this. All authority. Remember, he has all authority. What does he do? Go, therefore. Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you, and behold, I am with you always to the end of the age. Come and follow me. Now go and make disciples. Go and let others follow you. What I want to talk to you about today is this. We are all following somebody. Who is the they that you're following? And where are they taking you? That's a tough question. Because somebody, somewhere, something in our lives has said, come and follow me. Right? Now, some of us are like, okay, is this what we do? The rest of us are like, why? And I figure in this crowd, because they say you attract who you are, most of you guys are like, why? I'd be like, why? We ask that. We're very, we'll call it curious, stubborn, pig-headed. Why? And then we evaluate. Where are you going? What are you about? And then we determine value. Is what you're doing valuable enough to give my life to? Is what you're doing and what you're about, is that valuable enough for me to give up this other thing? And so then we weigh out and we balance out and we determine what it is that we want to do and where it is that we want to go. Now, when I was 17, things didn't look like they do now. Because I felt like Motley Crue was going, come, follow me. And I was like, all right. I see what you're doing there. I see value in that. That's where I want to be. Right? Because we're 17. It don't work right up here. What we see when we're 17 is tomorrow. Not next year, not 2 years, not 5 years, not 10 years. Tomorrow. if we've got distant vision. Right? So, we're 17, we just follow what sounds right, looks right, feels right. And a lot of times, man, in our world today, it's so easy with social media. You get to feel like you know people, right? More than like just from afar, because they're telling you their personal insights. Because if it's on the internet, it's got to be true, right? And so we idolize and we follow after the wrong people or the wrong things. But I want us to stop for a second and look and go, who am I following? And why? And where are they going? God's law, God's word, God's will, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, God's will was then and still is life. There is no life outside of the will of God. And Jesus came as Messiah, and he was the embodiment of the will of God. And he said, I am your life. And outside of me, there is no life. And I've found, and I can testify, and many people in here can, that is true. That outside of Jesus, there is no other life. But Jesus didn't command his disciples to keep following him. He said, now you go and make disciples. Why? I found that people get weird with invisible people around. Right? When you're walking, and Bluetooth has really screwed me up because people are walking around all the time talking to themselves. And I can understand if you're talking to Jesus, but these aren't Jesus conversations. It's like, should I get the blue one? Or are you saying it's the red one? And they're like Walmart. Pick up the green one. That's on the other end of the store. I'm like, hey, who are you talking to? I thought, this Holy Ghost place. Walmart is the New Jerusalem. We need someone to walk with us. We all do. Everybody, everywhere follows somebody. When I was in the Marines, I learned about targets and about sights in your rifle. And the thing is, you look at your sight and you line your sight up with your target. Only if you want to hit it. Jesus has to always be the target. But everybody needs somebody to line them up. Everybody needs somebody to line them up. I think it's interesting that they actually call that thing the sight. Because we want to follow people who have Jesus in sight. We want to follow people who are going the way of life. Right? We should look around and go, who has what I am after? And a lot of times we think, wow, that's, man, Todd, you know what, I don't really dig being a pastor. Hey, no, it ain't for nobody. That's something when God says, remember your youth, here's what you get. That's what happens. Remember what you used to do? Now you're going to be a pastor. So, but there are people in our world who are doing what you want to do. There are firemen out there. There are policemen. There are school teachers. There's probably a lawyer. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, I make fun of lawyers, and Amber loves it. The thing is, there's somebody out there who has Jesus in their sights that's doing what you're doing. And what do we want to do, man? We want to find someone that we can humble ourselves and go, I want to be your disciple. I want to do what you do. I want to know how this works. How is it that someone can follow Jesus and be in politics? I mean, maybe that's your slant. Maybe you're like, man, you're political and you're charged that way. And you're like, how is it that you can follow Jesus and teach school? How is it that you can follow Jesus and influence people? How is it that you can do this? And I want to learn from you, and I want to know how business works when it's done with Jesus in your sights. How does that look? And so we look and we search out and we seek out people and places and things and organizations because we need to learn to be followers. Guys, we're in a world where if you're a follower, you're weak. Everybody wants to be in charge. Everybody wants to be the leader. Well, there is no leader anywhere that has any success that's not following somebody. Everybody is called out. Come and follow me. But there's another side of that. Everybody's leading somebody. Every one of you guys are influencing somebody. Every one of you guys are taking somebody somewhere. And we need to ask the question, who am I following? But we also need to ask the question, who am I leading? Who am I influencing? Let me tell you this, guys. If you are a parent, you are a leader. You are a rabbi. Let me ask you this. Is Jesus in the sights? Where are you leading your kids? I have this theory that there are no bad kids at all. I believe kids are pure and innocent and molded into God's creation. But I believe kids are imitators naturally. And I believe kids imitate what they see their parents do. I know my kids don't ever do what I say. Anybody else? My kids never do what I say. But man, they often do what I do. You know, that's tough. And I understand when kids get to like junior high and they start becoming and stretching and breaking away and figuring it out on their own. I understand that. And we all go through that. You've been through it. I've been through it. I've got my kids are going through it. One's going through it. One's not there yet. And I love it when they're not there yet. But when they start stretching and spreading their wings and becoming, you know, but we still have influence. We're still called to lead. Man, there is somebody watching you somewhere all the time. You realize that you are influencing somebody? We're really in a generation of people who will not lead, so they're looking for anybody that steps up and says, hey, why don't we do this? Or hey, why don't we go? And so it's just like Scott was talking about sheep. Just that way, this way, that way. Take the responsibility. Go and make disciples. What that tells me is that it's not going to happen naturally. You have to put forth effort. Go now and make disciples. Go now and teach people how to do what you do. God is so important, man. We don't get it. We want to just say, oh, I tell everybody the right thing. I tell everybody to do this. I tell everybody don't do that. I tell everybody that's bad for you. But what are you doing? Here's the thing that gets me too. People only see what I'm doing when I screw up. Right? Like I can live perfect for in theory, we'll go in theory. In theory, you can be perfect every day. But you're going to go to Walmart that one day, and they're going to push that buggy in the side of your truck one day. And you're going to trip out one day. And when you turn around, there's going to be 5 people standing there going, that's what I thought. Right? It's always the time you let down. We got to be on all the time. I got to look around and realize that everywhere I am and everything I'm doing is leading somebody somewhere. Whew, that's heavy. That's heavy. I mean, that's heavy because you're like, Todd, man, you don't get breaks? Yeah, go in a closet somewhere and scream and yell and kick and do whatever you got to do. But when you come out, you're on again because your kids are watching. The neighbor kids watching. You say, well, I'm only in high school. I don't have to do that. Your brother and sister are watching. Your little kids in this church are watching. Everybody sees everything you do. And they are imitators. They don't do what you say. How many people do what somebody says? Rare, right? Nobody's doing what we're saying. I say stuff all the time up here at church. Nobody does it. What are you doing? Who am I following? Who am I leading? Who am I being influenced by? Who am I influencing? The question comes down to, is Jesus in my sights? Because there's no other life outside of that. And if we're aimed or slanted toward anything other than that, we're not going to find life. The question being, what is worth putting my life into? You know, I think a lot of us are just wandering around like sheep because we haven't found anything valuable enough to sink our life into and to say this is more valuable than that. I want to be with these days, not those days. I like the direction these sheep are going. They don't seem to be walking off as many cliffs and piling up to cushion the blow for the other ones. Sick. You got to catch last week's message if you missed it. It's great. Keep your dead husband around. It's hilarious, man. What was I even talking about? I just went through last week's message again. Here's what I want you to know. I feel like when I was called to this is what I felt like God wanted me to give my life to. And I mean, I said, that's it. This is it. I found the it in my life that was worth putting everything else aside. If you can't find that it in your life, I want to invite you to try putting your life into this. And here's why. I want to tell you what this is. I just want to take a second and tell you what this is. This is not a church, not a normal church, okay? We're not doing a bunch of things. We're not marketing and advertising, doing things like, we're not trying to build a big crowd. We're not trying to appease everybody that walks in. Man, do y'all have this? No, but we will. And do y'all have that? No, but we will. We can't do all that. I'm not a preacher. I never intended to be. I never started to be. And I'm not there. I'm just not me. I'm not a pastor. I've never been really called to doing that either. This church is never going to be all things to all people. I'll tell you exactly what we are. This is a place for hurting and broken people to be healed and put their lives back together. That's why we're here. There's other churches, man, they're passionate about Somalia or Africa or whatever, and I'm like, that's awesome. Everybody's called to something. Everybody's like, well, you're not a balanced church. Well, so who is? I mean, I don't know how you do that, not unless you have 50 million people. I believe everybody's messed up. And I look at the apostles and I go, hey, that's me. Hey, that's me. Hey, that's me. And I saw Jesus go, you know, you're screwed up. But I can use you. I didn't pick the Harvard graduate. I picked the guy who was, when he was 10, he said, man, you might ought to go fish. You know what I mean? I failed at more things than I've achieved. I've been to bottom. I know what it's like to be brokenhearted. I know what it's like to be lost and wondering what it's all about. I've searched everywhere in this world for life and couldn't find it. I sought it after things and parties and people and relationships and everything, and it's not there. I've been blind. I've been dead. I've been hurt. And what I found was Jesus healed me, resurrected me, transformed me, changed me, built me, promoted me, used me, and gave my life meaning and purpose. And what this place is about is taking those who are hurting, those who are broken, those who are screwed up, those who are messed up, those who are addicted, those who are abandoned, those who have been abused and mistreated, those who can't get it together, who can't find that it in life, who bounce from here to there and can't seem to put it all together. This is the healing place. See, I found that this is worth putting my whole life into. I had a guy tell me not too long ago, he said, he had a lot of the friends that had been here and left. And he told me, he said, I don't have nowhere else to go because I'm not here for the message. And I'm not here for the music. And I'm not here for what we offer. He said, I'll tell you why I'm here. I believe in what we're doing. See, if you want to put your life into something because you believe in what they're doing, healing is what we're doing. Helping people put their lives together is what we're doing. You know, and if you get that, then you don't have to like the music, and you don't have to like the message, you don't have to like the seeds, you don't have to like the black walls, you don't have to like all that stuff. Because you get what it is that we're doing. And it's worth following. It's worth following. Who are you going to follow? What are you going to follow? Who are you going to lead? And where are you going to lead them? See, that's what we've got to ask ourselves today. Who am I following? Who am I leading? Where am I going? And where am I taking the people I'm leading? Where am I taking my kids? Where am I taking my friends? See, I think that's when it gets really serious. I mean, that's when it gets like we've got to know ourselves. Who am I following? Who am I leading? Everybody's following somebody. Everybody's leading somebody. Everybody's under somebody's influence. Everybody's influencing somebody. Let's stand up and lead people to the cross of Jesus where life is. Let's follow those who are going that way, who have Jesus in their sights. It takes committing our lives to that. I want to pray for you.